Hello, this is a video about the flaws in American protests now. For example, when they say, as was shown by the reporting of CNN and of Fox News, when they say, no justice, no peace, and then they stop. You have to put more. You have to be like, no justice, no peace. The Constitution's busted, so the revolution ceased. Now, but see, if you word it like that, the revolution requires a quality of fact treatment nature dealing with the predicate acts delivery system that forced sick things like slavery. And so roles with that are only capable of being standing fact treatment nature styles as identities that could not defend themselves and us from what exploits that simultaneously. That's not just divide and conquer. That's not just that's divide, conquer, fake unity, fake sides of correlation nature's trinity, fake alternatives. Preventing free speech is simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means. We have hundreds of nations at once, shared here and there, policing sick. Now we have the individuals interbranch involved with this, and you could discern it, but you have to allow free speech because they're kept needing to hide lie progressions. They are kept interbranch. Their family members are kept needing to hide their lie progressions because of how really the overt criminal enterprises are bonded with them, because how really the private criminal enterprises are valued. You cannot legalize that. It was criminally legalized. Now the alternatives, no one could see any way out of it because hundreds of nations at once are self-valued, criminally foreign influenced identity to ground relationships to the identity of value/value progression. That is the perfect value progression system. And that these were tactically propagated as value progression systems, tactical ulterior from. Specifically to cause negative value nature progressions, acts and natures, acts like predicate acts, natures like criminal insidiousness natures, wrongdoers, criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments and of negative treatments simultaneously, misprising criminality, self-valuing the individual lies and lie progressions, covered up the group ones of each branch, and altogether each branch's crimes and crime natures and methods, and grouped in together, hundreds of nations at once. There's not one modern nation formally worth its salt. That's why we have problems with nuclear weapons and things. Meanwhile, we're in the same self-value base and pathology of it, forced by the breaching method entrenched here since before our founding parents were even born. No, without free speech. Because they put up the Constitution doesn't mean they had free speech. Down to the finite. See, they have sequence allowed value down to the finite, active, progressive. You want to stand up for America and Native American rights properly, and black rights properly, for example. You don't do it by making comparisons to the other rights in the same trap. Sickly distinctly, I admit that. Oh, you have to be sick if you can't admit that. So let someone try to say that. See, they rather than hide how sick we have our stewards, identities, the jobs and titles as trained, from being discerned, they can't afford mandated law, in other words. They can't afford you to have free speech of any individual using our actually inherent, active, and progressive means. They have black-white leaders. They have intercultural leaders that are in collusion with the white hate groups, with the military police families and stuff like that, involved with vertical and horizontal database, illusion stacking, predicate acts roles, wrongdoing roles, uses of the right to lie, even when legitimately, it's simultaneously they're doing it illegitimately. All investigations, investigators and vetting identities, and programs with each age of fact-shaping nature are criminally foreign influence, delusions raw, criminal worse than just criminally incompetent. That's what spoke for urban areas, let alone. That's a lot of, they can't defend themselves from correlation nature regarding the real causes of negative value nature progression action natures in the suburbs, let alone the urban areas. The worse it gets, the easier it is to discern it. See, the sick as it is, slavery, nature itself demonstrates negative value nature progressions action natures and demonstration of it. Fake positive natures, fake negative natures, and collusion tied to misprision, corruption, criminality. They're only defending their identities as they were presented to them as weapons, as sick counters to sick stuff that wasn't started by anyone, but all will hurt by it. It's all perfected by it, pretending other or so we don't have mandated law followed. So people who are preventing mandated law, roles with that, styles of that, they need to pretend other. So they keep offensively have people making opinions and convictions. They keep contrasting themselves, the news networks. They are one identity of negative value nature progression acts in nature. It's say identity of negative value nature progression. They cannot afford mandated law to be followed. And I don't just mean economic terms. I mean, like, if you can't swim, you can't afford to jump out of the boat in the middle of the ocean. See, this is a syntax trap. This is a human fact treatment nature, organized crime method, which forced roles. You see, they're going to pretend, even after our founders were died, they still had Jim Crow laws. They didn't win the revolution. Revolution is not a war. Revolution is not a perpetual defense from a sick state. Boxing is great. So these parties are sicker than all get up. Because they can't follow mandated law. They already didn't. So they can't afford now discern what they had obligations to have discerned back then. They've been using investigations, vetting identities, and investigators themselves, and hold programs with everything to hide their life progressions. To hide the life progressions of their colleagues, of the people they talk to. Even the neighbors, everyone gets involved because of the crime method they're using. They put people with their fake words with their family members. We have some sick rat trap courts and police forms, and all tied to them personally. The prison cliques tied to them personally and their family members personally. I caught them recorded with predicate acts on off child campuses as people involved with Central Connecticut State University, involved with training the people that run the prisons, kept needing to hide life progressions with them. Whole bunch of people tied to a Mr. Pruzzi and his family with Central Connecticut State University. Whole bunch of people tied to DeMoros and to sexual circles they had with Heather Hansen, and people tied to DeMoros that walked up to me pretending they had, in other words, people, they have girls walk up to them pretending you're going to have a normal conversation with them when you know that they're tied to someone involved with all kinds of sick things. You're not going to talk bad about someone, so you ignore it. But that become relevant years later because now they have people. For example, the Wethersfield Police Department, through time, they've been recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, forcing me to speak through other people too. There's a Bob Chase who confessed and recorded. There's a Phil Cololo, who's also one of the people involved with like two Mendez police, a whole bunch of other police associated with them, a whole bunch of there's like women I don't know the names of with their families and stuff, like with state police, Wethersfield police. These are people involved with former director of the FBI's co-defendants in a case that was ongoing, case/S that was ongoing at the time of the plaintiff's death. Those, in other words. So Connecticut had also World Trade Center attack crime rolls with one of the parts of those cases, and then right before the World Trade Center attack, in the context/S, interstates, and worse than just internations, they had rolls with theme. One of the themes that ties them is their database predicate acts self-valued by them. Now, so I don't even know all their names. They have a whole bunch of men and women associated with a Joshua Stryker I never had a conversation with in my life. He's associated with Trinity College now, and with people with confessions and all this crap in my town, intercities at the time. So they kept bringing in more people and demonstrations of roles with predicate acts that also brought up a principal child offender's campus before that was proven. Now, I've been asking for a response since before that. The courts, prosecutors with their kids, and judges with their kids are involved with the same families with the principal child offenders campus then and now, and one of them being a Phil Cololo, who's also involved with police calling my house and sequence shifting and forging names and switching names roles with the Cololo family /S, and a whole bunch of people on and off Two Rod Highway involved with them with the child sex offenders on the registry with further predicate acts, and further on the principal child offenders campus then and now. No, these same ones are the ones involved with the World Trade Center further. They are further criminally involved with the Soto family /S and with Newtown Sandy Hook databases tied clicks. People on off Fox Connecticut News associated with the Main family and with Mendez police, recorded involved with identity thefts, frauds, fake conversations with me, fabricating audio and video, sequence shifts, and other natures of predicate acts, like extortion, and like with the wire crimes that WFSB and Fox Connecticut News and other news people are involved with them. Also with New Haven, and with, on and off all the colleges and universities, especially law. How are they going to speak for the law? Their delusions rot since founding. They're victims, but victim predators. So follow mandated law for Connecticut and get them from the names forging and switching into branch. Names forging and switching is what they use to threaten and to demonstrate and to confess their roles with sick things as per a method that makes defenses of their identities used. And then they defend that. And then, in other words, they keep anyone from using short words. In other words, I need the name of the officers that are forging names and switching names with the Cololo family. Excuse me, like an Officer Sullivan, a male one. They said they only have a female Sullivan. See, they have other officers forging and switching names. They keep bringing up more issues and more people and more locations involved with them criminally. Know how locations get tied to our fact-cheating nature. So it is evidence how we have black and white female judges involved with crimes with child offenders that are sexual, medical, and interbranch. Dozens of people from the Britain Superior Court that are also KKK themed, Confederate flag themed. Now they're reliant upon narratives regarding the past that they can't defend on paper because it will reveal other things, like with Justin Klavinskis and his wife associated with apartments on and off Central Connecticut State University, intercities involved with them, and also with these cliques with people associated with relatives of this Phil Cololo, who's one of the people involved with these two Mendez police, interbranch and private, and medical families, and people with forensics locations that this Phil Cololo of prosecutors and their sexual circles are associated with the ones next to me. Now, these are also weaponized sexual circles, people that slander people, identity theft, and they keep this sustained. Then they try to pretend they can speak for integrity. So this is through time, abuses of each agent and fact treatment are connected. These are people also associated, recorded criminally involved with sick elderly homes. They're sick because they have the legal treatment natures to them, satisfied sick themselves. They're sick people. These are not our means. These are not the means that people can afford, that companies can afford, and that everyone can afford together. See, we have a fake unity, self-value. What needs to pretend other needs a way to do it. So it pretends to be against things, to pretend to be for things. You're pretending to be for the city. Your delusions are just pure victim, predator, if you're pretending that the city's all right. Now, the same thing with the suburbs. This is a pathology of the suburbs that was designed to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures since before cars were invented. This is the plan they had to unfold. They designed the houses in Hartford to be later converted to 2 families, 3 families. This is throughout the world. You look in Russia, they have the same pathology of homes since before cars. Where's all the technology then? Non-existent and fake. CT must break. So they also have a Peruta family, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. I barely know of him. Barely know him. Only know that he sought me out to make confessions and demonstration about how he's associated with Russia, his family. I never met his family, his brother, whatever. There are also people involved with like Inspector Mike and a whole bunch of people with the name Mike. And with the Kerr family involved, also with a ILO family, with former Mayor Gold, also involved with vertical, horizontal predicate acts with databases. Vertical, horizontal, in other words, from off those database locations, they've been kept needing to hide lie progressions and needed to hide their actually recorded criminal and seditious natures from the means to demonstrate that which actually recorded. I say actually recorded because their roles with the fabrication of audio and video. They also have this pattern of people tied to forensics locations and to the families of peoples associated with forensics locations that are involved with, like a Joshua Julian, involved with the Principal Child Offenders Campus, and with forensics people that were involved with that, and with the transition from ACA to RICO. These are the same people involved with those same overt criminal enterprises as they labeled them, as they grouped them in relationship to predicate acts. But these are people in collusion with them with predicate acts, not to be legitimate undercover or whatever like that. So there's a guy named Sam, and there's a Jack Heitner, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with locations on Franklin Avenue involved with overt criminal enterprises as they have them defined, and associated with all these people like a Kerr family and like an Officer Jerry Miller and a DeMauro family involved with and a Faenza family on off the state judicial branch offices, people involved with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso, and with the witness protection program also tied to My Street, directly and indirectly, various ways, as criminal involvements with this, with the schools, intercities. And this is also the people with the educational department, with their family members. I don't know them, so they need to pretend fights and things like that. Everyone's speaking to other things. They have like a Gallucci family, reportedly married to a daughter of a principal when I went to that same school, that I caught them with the principal child offender and more then and now. So they have school resource officers with this. Whole bunch of people in tied to and as a Dillon family, like Anna Dillon, Sean Dillon, Kevin Dillon. There's a more Dillon people. I believe it's a Tom Dillon, whatever. Associated with these Mendez police, other school resource officers involved with predicate acts with kids, even sexual and medical. Note how it is medical. Note how we have physical delusions only allowed to speak in criminal form. People know this. People aren't stupid. See, but that stays because we have natures of experts that are still industries criminally foreign influence, like psychology. Don't pander to votes like these people blindly, sick, fake. CT must break.